Everyone, welcome back to the workshop. It is finally spring here. Summer is rapidly approaching, and that means a lot of us, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, are going to be looking at outdoor craft fairs and events. And so you may be looking at adding a portable laser to your arsenal to be able to do customization on site. It's a great way to be able to really increase that, the sales at events, being able to customize them for people on site before they walk away and forget about your business. So we've looked at a few on this channel before, and the friends over at LaserPecker actually reached out to us and said, hey, do you want to check out our LaserPecker 2? And I said, sure, why not? It's a little bit different than some of the others, and it is very small. This is about as compact as it gets. You still have to add power, but they did send their little power brick with as well. So just these two and your portable device, such as your phone or tablet, will be able to run this thing pretty well. So we're going to take a look at this laser. We're going to see how it performs, maybe give you some ideas on what it can do, and maybe that will inspire you to look at this or similar lasers within their line for your portable laser. So if you're interested in this, stay tuned. We're going to jump right into it. So let's take a look at what they sent over. They have a few different packages for the LaserPecker 2. And it starts with just the base laser, which would include the laser, this shroud, as well as the adjustable stand, and I believe the safety glasses. This allows you to work on basic materials that would be flat. You can definitely hand hold it, and then you can use the adjustable base to be able to set things down on the bottom or even angle it up. Now, if you want to step it up from there, they also have their LaserPecker 2, I think they call it the Suite. And that is going to get you this package, which includes their versatile electric roller. Now, this is something you can mount to the base, and it'll act typically like your roller rotary, or you can actually flip this over, and it can roll around along a longer piece, or there's even what they call more of a slab mode, where you can put a larger piece on here, and they have a couple supports, and it'll move that piece across back and forth on the laser. So not just your typical rotary for engraving, tumblers or dowels, things like that, but this can actually work with other methods to work on larger materials as well. Now, stepping it up from there, you also have their deluxe package, which does include this little portable battery pack. This is a 5200 milliamp hour battery pack. It has a couple of outputs. One is this barrel plug cable, which will allow you to connect directly to the laser. There's also a 5-volt, 2-amp USB connector output. And then you have your input, which is USB-C, so that you can charge. I'm not 100% sure on how long it'll run on this, but we will be doing some testing and see how it performs with us here. But this would be part of the package if you're gonna be doing it mobile and you don't have a power source. This will allow you to run the laser, at least for a little bit of time, without any sort of shore power. And then finally, there is the super package, which also includes this really nice carrying case. So it's kind of a cloth exterior. They have their logo on front, and then it zips open and has a compartment to where the assembled laser would fit, and then a side compartment where you could put your battery pack, you could put some of your cables, and a few minor accessories, maybe the glasses. So that is a nice way then to kind of keep it bundled together, keep it packaged, and keep it protected. Now, some of the additional add-ons that come with the laser, you have a nice USB-C to USB-A connector. So this would be for plugging it into a computer. However, a lot of the times you will probably be running this in Bluetooth mode. So we're going to test that with phone, maybe tablet, and then we'll see how it connects to the computer. Otherwise, we do have this option for connecting to the computer. I also have the powered stand. So this has a couple buttons on the side. It has a USB-C to USB-A connector. So this would go into the back of the laser. And then the laser itself just mounts with this really large thumb screw on here. And then you have a little kickstand as an optional focus. We'll talk about that later, as well as another adjustment here, a little knob that should allow you to loosen this up and angle the laser at varying degrees. It does have kind of a key system where it'll kind of lock in at certain ones, but it does give you a little extra flexibility. So if you wanted to rotate this at a 90 to hold it up against something that's vertical, you could. If you have something at an angle, you could play around with getting this set up into the right angle for that. However, you still need to make sure you have your focus and depth. They also include a short ruler. So this is another method for focusing. You can set the laser into the stand, and then you can adjust this. I believe you want to get it at 110 millimeters, but we'll check that as we get into the testing. So this would be just kind of a manual way to test that. And they do provide a little kind of a cutting tray. Now this being a 5-watt diode laser, your cutting is going to be limited on it. It's going to really be great for engraving, but if you are cutting on something, you want your material to be elevated, this allows a bit of airflow underneath it as well. So nice that they include that. And then when you're not portable, they do have a power brick. So this plugs in AC power, has the same barrel connector as the battery operated one to power up your laser as well. And then finally, the all-important manual that we all know we're going to read cover to cover, but this just covers kind of your quick setup, how to, you need to mount your laser on here with your thumb screw, how to maybe make some minor adjustments for focusing, how to connect it to Bluetooth and such. So it's not too bad. There's just a little bit of information in here. Give it a breeze through, maybe hang on to it in case you have some trouble, and it'll be a good reference for you. So that's all that comes with this laser. Let's get it hooked up. We'll get it tested first on the bench and do first engravings, and we'll talk about some of the specs as we move along through the test. Now, before we fire up the laser, let's talk just a little bit about safety. There are a couple of primary things that you want to be concerned about when using this or many other lasers. And first off, that is protecting your eyes as well as protecting your lungs. So as you're using the laser, it's emitting a beam of light. This is a blue diode in the 455 nanometer wavelength. This is a visible light, and that definitely can do damage to your eyes. So you want to protect your eyes, the eyes of others around you. The preferred way would, of course, be to keep this shroud on there. That's going to protect you from almost all of the light. It does have a little lip here that does allow airflow to come in, and then it does get exhausted out the back. So there are a couple of angles where you could still be affected by the laser light, but this is more of a 360-degree protection, and this orange acrylic should be blocking out a lot of that blue laser light. If you can't use that for some reason, they do provide you with these goggles, these glasses. Again, they have this orange acrylic. Now, neither of these have, like a rating on here. Normally with good laser protection, they're going to have the rating both in the nanometers that it will protect from, the wavelength of the laser light, as well as the optical density. So these are going to do something for you. They're not rated. And the other issue is, if you're like me and you have prescription glasses, these really don't fit over them very well. If you're not, these are actually better than some I've seen because they do wrap around fairly well. They fit fairly decently. So if you're like myself and you have these prescription glasses, you may want to pick up an aftermarket pair. These are a pair that I use and recommend a lot. They're by a company called Free Mascot. And on the front, they actually have etched in there. These are from 190 to 550, as well as 800 to 1100 nanometer. And optical density of 6, an OD6. So these are really good, and they do fit over my glasses fairly well. They have these kind of wings that block out most of the side angles, and so this is a way that I can still wear my prescription glasses and provide that protection from the laser light. So with that in mind, I'm going to put this back on. I'll get my rig set up with the smoke catcher, and let's start burning some wood. Okay, so we've opened up a LaserPecker design space over on my phone here. And we've powered on the LaserPecker 2, so it is ready to connect. You'll see that it's flashing blue. That's usually indicating that it's waiting to connect to something. So the first time you open up the app, it will probably ask you to access your Bluetooth. And when you go in to connect your device, it's going to ask you to set up an account first. So it's just going to need an email address to verify the account, and then you'll be able to set up a password for that. But we're going to come up top here. We're going to hit Collect to Connect Device. And that should, via Bluetooth, scan to find any LaserPecker devices that are nearby. So we'll give it a chance to do this. Now, sometimes when it's too close, it can't always find it, so we'll move it away a little bit and hit refresh. There we go. Popped right up. So now we have, you'll see the serial number there, not connected. We'll go ahead and click that. You'll hear the beep. And now our device is connected and we see it up at the top. We have a few different options here that we can play around with. And so we can take a picture in real time with the camera. We can actually load up any of the photos that are in here. Or we can do a create with text where you'd be able to import photos and other things, and then some clip art. So let's just jump in and take a quick look at their default clip art. So they do offer quite a few items just to play around with to begin with. You can then, of course, sort them by various things. And let's just go back to the primary one. Let's start with the default LaserPecker logo, and it'll give you a preview, and we'll just hit next. So now this will bring it into your workspace here and allow you to do a few different things with it. So now it is loading this as an image file, so it will give us some dithering options. And there are some various effects we can apply to it, but we want to just play with the stock image. Now you can move this around in your working area. If we kind of pinch and scroll out a little bit, it's kind of giving you the extent of the overall working area of the laser. But we can come in here and we can actually tap on the image itself and we can resize it. We can, of course, rotate it with the icon here. So it's actually just a push and hold, and then you can rotate it. And then we can go ahead and add other things. So we could add some tests. So LaserPecker 2. We'll do that. We'll hit OK. And now it's going to give us some text to play with. So here again, we can resize this. We can bring this down below and play around with it. We can select both of them and we can lock their orientation. But I'm also looking, here we go, we can group this. So this will allow us now to move the whole thing around together, which is going to help us with setting up our file. So once we kind of have that set up, we can come up here into preview. Click on our object, hit preview. It's going to give a little warning that make sure everything is safe in there. We're going to go ahead and preview. And what this is going to do, over here you see we have the box lit up. Now we can adjust the brightness over here with the laser, and that's just changing the intensity of the beam. So you want to put it just to where you can kind of see it, but not that it's marking too much. And the other nice thing is we can actually move the object within the working area to help with our placement. So you don't necessarily need to move your material at once. And then if it's too big, we can just kind of size it down, and we're going to move it up into that corner. So once we're happy with that, we can go ahead and hit next. And on this one, we're going to set up our resolution of both the fill of the text as well as the image. We're going to go ahead and just leave it at 1K. That's kind of the default, and we'll see how that goes. So at this point, we're going to send the file to the laser. Don't worry, we'll still have opportunity to adjust our settings. So it's going to take just a little bit. It will transfer it in. And once it is ready, now it brings up where we can go with our adjustments for the item. Now they do have options here in the middle where it says clip art. It's saying recycled paper, but what we can do is actually scroll through here and look for a similar material. So we're dealing with Baltic birch wood. So I'm going to go ahead just with the wood setting and hit OK. Now you see that it is adjusting its various things here. And so what we can also do is come over to the image. So it does see those two objects separate. So the fill was the text, image. We want to adjust that as well. We're going to go to wood, hit OK. And here it's actually going with 100% 30 and 1. So we'll see how the two differ. So I'm going to get the fume extractor kind of running, and then we'll go ahead and hit start. All right, so we got a little bit of noise. The fan is blowing in, and that's sucking out. So hopefully we'll get this. So we're going to go ahead and hit start, and you'll see right away. It's going to go ahead and do the text first, and then it'll jump up to the image. All right, so it has completed and it's giving us some basic information here. So the fill, which was the text, took 13 seconds, and the image, which was the little LaserPecker logo, that took 1:44. So real interesting. It says up here it took 1:57. So let's go ahead and slide this out. We'll take a look at it. And here you go is the result. The text, pretty decent, maybe just a little bit off to the edge, and we are getting to the extent that I moved it to the corner. But the logo itself is, it's a little faint. I would like to see that a little bit darker. So we'll need to note that and make some adjustments to that. So let's go ahead and put this back in and see if we can find some settings that work better. All right, as you can see here now, this one took 3 minutes, 34 seconds. What I changed, I left the text the same because that looked fairly decent the first time, but I doubled the time, the depth is what they say, which seems to be the inverse of the speed. The more the depth, the slower it goes. And so that was at 60% instead of 30. And so this one took 321 this time. So that seems to be correlated to the speed all the way. I did also increase the resolution up from 1K up to 1.3. So we changed a couple things, which means the factors could have been a couple of things taking effect. You really should only change one at a time. But let's go ahead and take a look at the engraving. So here you have the engraving. You can see that 60% depth definitely slowed it down, gave us a much more crisp engraving, but there is a slight more depth to it versus this just kind of being on the material, but definitely a nice crisp darker color on this one. So all right, so let's see how it will handle just a straight photo, and we're going to go ahead and use the app. I've got it here, so we're going to go ahead with the camera option. We're going to need to give it access to our camera and our library. So here we are, we're in the standard camera app. I'm just going to switch it around to our photo mode. We'll just see if I can get a decent background here. Actually, let's see how we go. We'll come back by my buddy, little clackhead here. All right, we're here in the app. We're gonna go ahead and say use photo. So that will bring this into the workspace, and we have a lot of the similar tools. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of play around with this now. I wanna see if we can come in here, and hopefully we have a cropping tool. So here we go. We're going to scroll over to crop, and I'm going to cut out some of this top stuff, bring that over, but let's try to keep Clack's image in there as well. So we'll just crop it down to the parts we really want. All right, good enough. We got that. We'll crop that. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, some of the things you're going to want to play with, you may want to come into your image, and you're going to want to play around with some of the settings on here. This is just my experience speaking. We are going to go into the dithering option, and we're going to play a little bit with the contrast and the brightness. My experience with lasers, we often want to actually increase our contrast a bit. That will kind of darken the darkers and brighten the highlights, and that just gives a little more effect. And so you want to play around with that. You don't want to lose the details too much, but you do want to try to accentuate some of the areas. So looking for a bit of a happy balance there. I'm bumping up the contrast just a little bit to see. I'm going to go with that. It's kind of washing out Clack's image there, but you know, this is just for fun. Now we are going to use our Baltic birch plywood that we've got our logos on. We'll kind of stick with that for now. This does have some grain to it, so that's probably going to affect the outcome a bit. But if you're doing something on like a slate tile, you definitely want to use this invert button, and that's going to reverse the image, and then wherever darks need to be, it will use less power, and whites would be brighter. But we're doing the opposite, burning into the wood. It's going to burn the darks darker. So once you're okay with that, we'll go ahead and hit our preview button again, but we got to get our material back in here. So let's get this slid into place, and I'll put it right about there. We'll hit preview. So now we have our box again, and we're we can once again move this around a little bit. So I'm going to move it back up there, but I'm also going to enlarge this a little bit, just give it a better chance. The smaller you get, the more detail you're going to lose, because your laser focus size is going to be utilized on more of the picture. So the larger you can go, the better it's going to turn out, but the longer it's also going to take. So we'll give it a fair shot using a lot of that. And so once we're happy with the positioning of it, we can go ahead and hit next, and this should then go ahead and send it over. We're going to stick it at 1.3K. Last time it's right in the middle. So we'll send the file to the laser. Once that's done, we can then go ahead and play with our settings. So here again, it seems to have saved my settings from last time. So it was 100% power, 60% speed. Now in this case, when we want darks and lights to show up, what we may want to do is actually lower our power a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that down to say about 85, just so we don't blow out the dark so much. But we'll keep our depth up there at 60%. A single pass, and let's go ahead and send this off to the laser and see how it comes out. All right, hopefully, as you can see here, it took about 14 minutes, 39 seconds at those speed settings, and that was the only object on here. But let's take a look at the actual engraving. So there you have it. It's maybe a little bit lighter, so maybe bumping that down to 85 on the power may or may not have been best. Kind of just depends on how you're going for, but I think if we would have gone even darker, you know, where my hair is at and such, would have definitely been a little bit more aggressive. So definitely something to play with, but you know, just for a quick snapshot with our phone on material for a first run and guessing, feel pretty happy with this. So if you were to play around with material, maybe get something with a little less grain, a little more white, and that takes on and burn really well, you can increase the speed. You'd be able to take snapshots on the fly and do some engraving definitely in the field on site. All right, so played around with the slate coasters first, and I actually stopped the first one from running because it was way too high of power and slow of speed. It was really creating just molten lines on here, and they were bubbling up. So when you're playing with rock and you apply too much heat to them, that's what's going to happen, and definitely not the look I was going for. So backed it off a couple different times till got it to where I felt it was pretty decent. It was more of just a white engraving. Even this was maybe a little hot because I can definitely feel the raised bit to it. So it did actually come up pretty well. And the fine detail in this, I'll try to bring a nice close-up shot of this in there, actually came out well. There's some that's a little overlap, but we were taking a really big image and we kind of squeezed it down to just a little, around I would say about 2 1/4, 2.5 inches. So that worked out pretty well. But we did have to back way off from the stock settings on this. So again, it's great that they have settings to play with, but you know, that was just stone setting. Various stones are going to be different. So you're going to want to play around with your material. And we then played around with the acrylic, and this again was the stock settings, and that came out pretty well. It's not as white as I've seen before. So I think we could definitely adjust the settings there a bit if we wanted a little more contrast. The blue diode lasers do tend to get a nice gradient on most acrylics. Now you're going to want to play with opaque. This is black. This is kind of best case scenario. So I do feel we could get a little more contrast here, but you're going to struggle more as you get into some of the lighter colors and or, you know, the light blue colors and such, and they are going to have less effect.
So I want to try this small wine tumbler, and it is roughly about, let's go this side first, about 3.5 inches or somewhere around 85 to 90 millimeters in diameter. So straight up and down, I wouldn't be able to focus on there. So what I did was I angled the laser up just a little bit. And now if I take this perpendicular down to the tumbler, we're pretty much right at 110 millimeters. So now all I need to do is get this framed up in here. Now, whenever you set up the file in here, you got to be mindful of the orientation that it's going to engrave. So if I put it this way, it's actually going to rotate the tumbler in the other direction, and it will kind of flip it around. So if I have the top on this side, the top is actually going to be on that side. So there's some settings you can maybe play with in the software, but just my quick test with the dowel showed that it was kind of reversed. So I'm going to put it this way, but I'm going to orient the mug with the top up on the left side, even though the top is on the right side over here. And we're going to hope that comes out okay. I've got this set up. If you look at the dimensions in here, it's showing that they are about 60 by 63, so in millimeters. So we're looking pretty good if we get that centered. So let's go ahead and go into our preview. And that should show us about where it's going to land. So here we want to actually move it over. And we're going to bring it down to this side so that it's kind of in line with where we expect it to be. So here again, we want to double check that that blue line is about 110 millimeters away. So actually I'm going to slide this up just a little bit more. So it's more in line with the center of this. So that's looking pretty good. Again, first time trying this, I do have the little rubber bands on here that allow the metal wheels to grab. And so that looks good. Let's go ahead to next. And I'm going to go ahead and bump this one up to 2K. Want as much quality out of this that we don't want it to leave any of the powder coating behind. So we're going to go ahead and send file. And let's see. So our engraving settings, let's just see if they have something in here. We've got there's lacquer coating. Let's see what lacquer coating says. 70% and 1%. Well, I'm going to bump this up to 100% power. And I'm going to go with about 5% depth on this and one pass. We're going to roll with that and see how that works out. Here is the output. It finished in just over 10 minutes and 10 minutes, 23 seconds it looks like. And so at first glance, you'll say, okay, that doesn't look very good, but let's try something real quick. We've got a little piece of a magic eraser here. I'm just going to add a little bit of Windex to it. So just kind of getting that wet. And now if we just take this on here, let's see what happens. Hopefully you can see it is shining up. It is cleaning up nicely. So just kind of clean that up a little bit. Let me get a paper towel real quick. All right. Wipe that clean. And that is very shiny, nice and clean. So I think our settings were pretty good.
right, so we did some testing with the Rotary device in the 3 different modes and had some mixed results. Starting out with in typical roller mode with the rubber bands added to items, worked pretty well. Got through my test dowel just to make sure things were functioning, and then also used it to identify the rotation of the item so that I could do this little small tumbler. And this actually came out really well. The quality is really nice. It didn't burn the stainless steel underneath, so that is nice and shiny, and just a little bit of cleanup with the magic eraser worked really well. So in this application, very happy with it. Took about 10 minutes with this tumbler, but not too bad. So went into slab mode where we take the little standoffs, the roller bearing standoffs, set them on either end, and tried to feed some material side to side. And honestly, this is the one that really didn't work that well. The first one, it kind of started bunching up in the front, and also then kind of paused a little bit in the middle, and kind of just angled down a little bit. So it kind of felt like the material wasn't grabbing consistently. So I tried a little larger, heavier piece and made sure it was square and flat. So, you know, this is a piece of select pine that I have milled down, and is very smooth, which probably is part of the problem here. Being too smooth, those the grit on those wheels probably didn't have enough to bite into. But as you can see, again, just struggled with the start, and then kind of, again, it just didn't feed straight through. So maybe making a quick jig to guide it through would help. But tried it one more time with a piece of hardwood, some maple, and it just couldn't bite it. It didn't move very much. In my time lapse, I could actually see the wheels kind of spinning without grabbing this very well. So I feel like it would work in the right combination of things. You need to make sure things are perfectly flat. You need to make sure your material is very flat, and it's going to need to be something that those wheels can grab on and not have a lot of friction on other ends. So then we flip that over, put it into trolley mode, and set it up on a larger piece. And this was our result. My first one actually came out backwards. So if you're looking in the mirror, this is great. And I probably should have known that. It didn't really give me a heads up in the manual though, and I figured when I put it into slab versus trolley mode that maybe the software would work that out, but you do need to flip it horizontally. So went ahead and just flipped it horizontally, ran it again, and then we got the right orientation for all the letters. And honestly, this actually worked pretty well. It seemed to track very straight. I used the battery pack on it just to give it a little more weight to kind of make sure that the whole assembly had some weight pushing down on it. And so this is roughly about 8 inches or 200 millimeters long, and it's probably about 1.25 inches tall at the most here. So this took about 8 minutes to do. It was a decent enough burn, and everything kind of came out straight. So this is an application where I could see using this. However, I will caution you, at least on this wood, there was a lot of smoke. I tried capturing some of it with the smoke eater, but it's too open environment, and that's going to be something you want to make sure that the room you're in, wherever you're doing this, has some proper ventilation. What I'm going to do is, this is my assembly table here, built this a number of years ago, and what I figure is, why not try putting a shop logo on the side of this? There is no way I would get this into any other laser. It's up at a 90 degree. It's going to be hard to put that on there. So we've set the LaserPecker 2 up with just the shroud on here. And the nice thing about that is this will automatically set its height to 110 millimeters. So now what we need to do, and I've also got it hooked up just to the battery pack. So we're completely portable with this at that point. And the nice thing is, this really isn't that heavy, so this is where it's going to be more feasible to fit. Now, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to take this, and I'm going to end up needing to hold this in place while this laser burns. So I am going to first get the file set up in here. So we're back in the app, and I've actually loaded in an SVG version of my logo. And so I've brought that in, I've sized it to about 78 by 82 millimeters, and we have it set to a fill. So now what I want to do is I need to remember the orientation of this. Now I could either flip this over, but it's going to basically go from the top down as far as, you know, the top part of the logo is going to actually be at the back of the laser. So when I'm holding it, I am definitely going to want to position it in this fashion here. So I'll have to kind of manually get this set up. And then now I can, once I'm happy with that, I'm going to need to make sure I can hold this still. So I'm a little curious how long this is going to take, but we will get this about where I want it. So I'm probably going to want it centered in my cutouts here roughly. And this is kind of the hard thing to do, eyeballing it here, but we will put it there and then try to get it square. Now I'm going to come back up to my app. We'll go into preview mode. And now I can see in there where it's at. So we're going to try to move this around, kind of fine tune it within here. So it's roughly in the middle. All right, so with everything lined up as best I can, we're gonna hit start and see how long this takes, see if it works. And this is where I kind of wish I would have put my glasses on, because this fan in the back does let a little light leak out. Yeah, we just hit 25% at 1 minute and 7 seconds, so we're gonna be about 4.5 minutes to get this done. And it's complete. 4 minutes, 37 seconds. So not bad, but honestly, I don't know that I'd want to hold this much longer. And here's our engraving. It actually came out pretty decent. Now there is some finish on here, so it was trying to blast through that as well. But you know, it's not terribly deep, but definitely is going to be there and stand out. So obviously, this is a lot lighter than some of the other Galvo style lasers that I've seen advertised where you can do this. This is the first time I've tried it, because even that, you know, it was a little, I was trying to hold it in place. What would be awesome, I think, is if this bottom edge just had a little bit of a rubberized surface to just kind of help keep it from shifting, because I felt like I had to really kind of balance pushing it in but keeping it still. You just don't want it to slide around a lot. So anyway, kind of a cool feature. If you have some situations like this, maybe if you're a custom furniture builder or something, and you want to be able to drop your branding onto larger pieces, this is definitely a way you could do it. Just hopefully, ideally, somewhere where you could just set it down on top of it. All right, we've jumped over to the computer to do one last test. And with that, I am going to see how the desktop software works. And we're going to go ahead and throw on an anodized aluminum card, a business card kind of thing, because that's another thing that these Galvo style lasers work pretty well at, and something that you may do some on-site work with. They don't have to be business cards. They can be ID cards. You could be doing anything in the anodized aluminum. So wanted to see how well it worked with that material, as well as we're going to try out the desktop app as well. So I've already got the desktop app loaded up here. It looks similar to the one on the phone, the tablet, so that's kind of nice. But I find it a little easier to navigate because you have your full screen here and such. So now I'm going to use the attached or the included cable they gave you. It's got some decent length to it. And all we're going to do is come around to the backside, and this USB-C connection in the middle, that's where we want to plug this in. So we're going to plug that in. The computer did detect a new device, which is good. So we'll come in here and refresh. And there we go, COM11 unconnected. So we'll click on that, and the laser beeped, and we are good to go. We see up here it's detecting the LaserPecker 2, and then it's a 450 nanometer laser and focal length of 110. So now what I'm going to do is actually going to bring in a business card that I've used on others. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got it right here. And then from here, we can start messing around with things. So we've got them all set to fill. And what I'm going to go with is we've got a lot of options here. We could try stainless steel, but that's probably going to be more for coloring it. There's the paint coating option. That works okay. So that would be a power of 70, a depth of 1. So that would be fairly quick. We also have Coke can, which is depth of 10. So that's it's burning a little bit longer. But so I'm going to go with the paint coating on this one. and we'll leave it at 1K resolution, one pass. And next thing we need to do is get our card set up in there and get it aligned. So the nice thing here is we'll be able to place our card down, and we also need to focus this because we're really high. So we're going to bring this all the way down. I'm just going to use the kickstand on this one. So here I'm using the buttons on the side, push and hold to bring it all the way down. And once we get close, I'll tap it and then just inch it down, more like millimeter it down. Right there, it's just touching the card. So, all right, so I'm gonna roughly center this for now. We're gonna come back into the design suite here from LaserPecker, and once we're good with this, we can click our preview button. And now that's gonna bring up the square over here. And the nice thing about this is we can just kind of align it. So we can do it there with the preview, and then we can go ahead, hit next step here. And it's going to give us a brief summary of what it is. We can confirm those settings. It'll send the file to the laser and start the job. All right, it did complete. Let's pull this off here. Now, initially it's looking a little sketchy. So let's get this cleaned up a little bit. All right, so that one, not so great. It didn't, I think we need a little more power on it and maybe slow it down a little bit. So let's go back to our settings. All right, so we had used the paint coating setting, which was 70 power and depth of 1. What I'm going to do is actually, let's go back. We had coat can, which was power 100, depth of 10. That 10 is going to slow it down a little bit. The power 100 is going to give it a little extra kick to hopefully get through the markings. So with that, let's just go ahead into our preview. Let's make sure our card is aligned. I'm going to confirm the settings. It will send it to the laser, and we'll let it run. All right. A little more promising. We've got some stuff to clean up on these edges. So let's go ahead and use our magic eraser. See what that does. Yeah, that's cleaning it right up. So that looks much better. Very shiny, very clean, not leaving a lot of residue behind. So definitely something you can also do, these anodized aluminum or these painted business cards. I went ahead and used the Coke can setting. It was at a resolution of 1K, single pass, power 100, depth of 10. So that seemed to work out all right. So that's where I think I'm going to wrap up this video and kind of complete my initial testing with this LaserPecker 4. Again, this is a 5-watt blue diode galvo style laser. It's very portable and is modular in the fact that you can move this head around on different items. You can take it off this base and add it to that rotary option to make this a little more flexible laser for doing a variety of things. And most of them worked out. My only slight disappointment with it is I really kind of struggled to get the slab mode to work well, but normal rotary worked, the trolley rotary worked. Moving it handheld, this is one of the best ones I've seen for that because of its compact size and lightweight nature. The portable app on your phone or tablet really worked pretty well in being able to import images that we took, import SVGs. I really didn't feel handicapped from it, from setting up basic engravings all the way up to importing that SVG of my business card. So I hope this maybe gave you a good overview of what this can do. I think this laser would be a good addition to someone wanting to do custom engraving for more natural materials, you know, wood, leathers, some acrylics, and then, you know, dealing with anodized aluminum or coated stainless steel definitely would work well. And this could help you out at your craft shows being portable. Just keep in mind that you, in whatever mode you're using it, you want to make sure you're providing protection for yourself and others, as in some of those modes we had to take that shroud off to get the focus right. But outside of that, as long as you have a way of protecting their eyes as well as dealing with the fumes, this would be a very portable option that could help you increase your sales at craft shows. So if you are interested in this laser or any of the other offerings from LaserPecker, I will have links down below where you can check that out. And I do have a coupon code down there as well that you can use for an additional 10% off your purchase. Using that link does support this channel in that it lets them know that you found my information valuable. And that just helps me continue to bring things into my shop here, give them a rundown and try to give you my honest opinion, my honest feelings on how it works out. And hopefully you can take that information to see if this laser might be something that works for you. So appreciate you using those links. I appreciate the support. And if you do end up getting one, leave a comment down below. Let me know how it goes for you as well. So once again, thank you for checking out this video. I hope that if you found it informational, educational, entertaining, you'll hit that like button. If you're new here, I hope you hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, I hope you get out into your workshop and can make something too. We'll catch you next time.